What is going on, YouTube? We are back with another video, and in today's video what I want to talk to you guys about is why you need to take your fitness and your health serious, because one day you're going to look back and have so many regrets. One day you're going to look back and you're going to be upset that you didn't take the simple steps today to set yourself up for future tomorrow. Because when we start to understand that once we get into the consistent routine of prioritizing our health, and again, that doesn't have to be the most insane thing in the world. It might just be you getting in some exercise and you starting to shift towards better foods. But just by doing that, our body adapts, right? And we get into this cycle. So it actually becomes easier and then enjoyable. And most people, once they start eating healthy, exercising, etc., not to say people don't gain weight back, not to say people don't fall out of routine, but when you've been doing it for long enough, it becomes part of your DNA and it just becomes part of what your lifestyle is. So if you can implement, these habits over the short term and then make sure that they consistently stick with you over the long term, then you're going to notice it's very, very challenging to shift back into those old ways you were in. And that's what I want to stress to you in this video, is why you need to take that initial step, because it's never going to feel comfortable, but it's always going to feel comfortable after the fact, looking back, knowing that, okay, I just achieved this because I put my mind to it and I accomplished X, Y, and Z, because I just took the daily actions, right? But you need to make sure that you are actually taking these actions and not letting that fear or that friction that you might feel hold you back, because so many people, it holds us back and we don't even get started. And if you were to know that just after a few months of starting, you'd be one wing under and a lot easier sticking with these habits, and then from there you transition to the next phase where you actually are enjoying the workouts if you're not already, and you're starting to look forward to the next workout. You're looking forward to these healthy meals and you're just seeing more progress in the mirror. And again, it becomes at this time less like a chore and more like a lifestyle, and more like you want to squeeze every last drop from the lemon to see what you're truly capable of. Most people don't get to that point though, because they don't take that initial step. So you need to take that first step. You need to take that first step towards prioritizing your health. And what that looks like is, making small changes over time, because everything stems from our mind. So if we are not thinking about making these choices, then we'll never take them, right? So the first step is thinking through what are the wrong choices that you're currently making, and what are the choices that you can improve upon or delete that are going to allow you to get the results you want. And now, as you start to do this, you're basically going into this elimination cycle where you're slowly removing one habit at a time and adding in a new habit, right? And as you do this, you notice it becomes easier to stick with the good habits, and you actually look more towards those natural sources of dopamine and those natural food sources, exercise, etc., rather than, comfort food, relaxing, TV, these sorts of things. And it's interesting because once you get into that second phase, your body really starts to look for the dopamine from these natural, healthy choices that you're making, rather than from the things you might have done in the past. And so if you can get into that phase, you're going to realize that not just is it easier to stick with because of the consistency, the compounding effect, and the habit, but also it's easier for you to want to do these things, because now you have generally more desire, more dopamine that you can use towards these things and that you get from these daily habits, right? So that could be as simple as, maybe you're in a stuck point and you're not eating anywhere near the quality food that you should be. Maybe that could be a stepping point of like, okay, let's just cut out, the candy, for example. And I'll be straight up, like, I've had candy. There's nothing against it, and it's bad, but it's when you're constantly eating these foods, especially carbohydrates, sugar, your body is not getting really much from that. And so you're constantly going to spike and raise your insulin levels, and this is going to make your body search constantly and for this sugar and have these all sorts of cravings. But if you can just remove it step by step, knowing that, okay, it will get easier with time, and I can actually just remove the bad and replace it with something else, and that pretty much completely knocks out that craving, knowing that you can start to slowly work your way towards becoming the individual and having the habits you want without having to go from where you're currently at, which might be okay. But if you're somebody watching this and you have horrible habits or poor health habits and you're eating junk food and you're not exercising or anything, what I'll say, because I've had many clients I've worked with, and I've also taken similar approaches in the past myself where, I just wanted to get back into shape because I knew that I started to slip with some of these habits, and so I just cut everything at once. What I always found that those are restrictive approaches that make you end up coming back to these habits. So if you can slowly understand why you're making the habit in the first place, and then think through what would be the better choice, and then just slowly implement new ones, you'll realize that pretty soon you're actually looking forward to more of these healthy habits, and not so much, wasting your life. Because we all have so much potential hidden underneath, but most people just don't tap into it because they don't actually realize that they can do it. And I think a lot of people walking around look at a health professional or somebody that's in shape and thinks, oh, I don't know how do they do that, that must be so hard. What they don't understand is that yes, it's hard at certain times in the journey, and beginning of the journey there's going to be that friction point, but like once you get through that beginning point, you have a lot more success and a lot more fun with it over the long term. And not just that, we understand that, hey, we have to look for this pain to get the pleasure, the reward we want, right? So if we're looking towards the hard, difficult things we don't want to do, we're going to benefit from that. So we're going to build new muscle, we're going to get stronger, we're going to feel better, and we're just going to make better decisions in the future because this domino is falling in our favor, right? So if you can get through that beginning phase where, you are cutting out some of these junk foods, then you're in a good spot. So say you cut out the crappy food, the junk food in the beginning, maybe after a week you realize, I don't really have cravings for those foods anymore, so why am I going to bring them back? I'm going to eat more of these sorts of foods, right? So now you're slowly, unraveling the onion in a sense where you're cutting out some of the sugar, but you're still allowing yourself to have, the burger, the pizza, whatever. And then just over time, it's not that you're not eating those foods, but you're replacing, that burger with something like a steak, right? Or maybe you do have the burger at times. And then sometimes, you're replacing these foods that aren't ideal with better options. If you can look for what the better option is rather than the best option, although that's not always ideal, that's going to keep you on this sustainable approach long term. If you don't prioritize these things now, then they will become something that haunts you later, and they will also become more difficult to get yourself out of the hole in the future. So you need to understand that it doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be this spot that you're in for the rest of your life. You can be in this spot for the rest of your life, not have the results you want, or you can decide like, hey, it's gonna suck at some point or another. I'd rather just go through that suck now. And then shortly after going through that, you start seeing what you're capable of. You start seeing results in the mirror, and you realize that it doesn't have to actually suck, because I'm the person that perceives this as sucking. I can look at the optimistic side, that good half, and see, okay, these are things that I'm improving from by going to the gym, by prioritizing my health, by eating better quality foods. And these are things that aren't just going to affect your physical stature. They're going to allow your brain to operate better so that when you're at work, you can make more money, you can think clearer, you can focus, you can do those tasks, those projects that you've been putting off, because now you have, the mental willpower to do so, and also you've disciplined yourself with some of these habits, and it's just starting to carry over, right? So it's going to just, make a big impact on your life if you start to prioritize your health, and it's super, super important to start before it's too late, because so many people look back 10, 20 years, 30 years down the line, they're like, I wish I did this, that, or the third. But if we can understand that, both of these habits had the same amount of weight, and it's really just the decision that we need to make that's keeping us from our goals. If we made the right decision every single time, we would have our goal, right? We all know that. And if we can just make that initial step, first start taking those goals, let the momentum and these sorts of things pick up, then we realize it gets easier, and we stick with it, and we actually start achieving more goals because we're setting the bar higher for ourselves. But in that beginning phase, just get started, just get accustomed to the journey. And don't be so strict about going from maybe eating horrible and not getting anywhere near the physique you want to training and eating like a bodybuilder. Like, it's probably not going to last longer than 3-4 weeks. And if it does, props to you, that's awesome. And yes, that's like the ideal, right? Like, you want to be perfect. But what I realized when I went through my nutrition coaching certification is that if we're on too far of that spectrum, right, where we're over healthily concerned and we're not focusing on enjoying our life in the social aspect, then that is just as detrimental when it comes to the mental well-being and the health of the individual. So we want to make sure that even on that side, we take some time back, right? We want to be in this good mesh where we can eat the proper foods that are going to give us the energy we need, but we're not going to be obsessive over it or restrictive in any nature. And the easiest way to do that is just literally start implementing small daily habits into your lifestyle and make the necessary tweaks one at a time, and watch the dominoes start to stack in your favor. And doing that will just give a big shift to your life, because now you're literally rewiring the entire way that your brain is working. All of the food, all of the nutrients that are going in are now nutrient dense in quality and are going to allow your body to perform efficiently and as it should. But most importantly, you're disciplining yourself by telling yourself, I'm going to look for the thing I don't want to do now, because it's going to pay off in the future, rather than looking for whatever feels comfortable now and dealing with it later. Going with that first option, looking for that, long-term approach where it's like, okay, this kind of sucks right now, but I'm just going to do it because I know it's going to pay off. Now what you're doing is you're just building up this discipline to make sure you follow through on the habits that are actually important to you. And it all starts with just taking a couple steps in the right direction. So if you've never been to the gym before, you could start just going to the gym, and you don't have to be perfect worrying about what you're doing when you are in there and whatnot. Yeah, that's of course important, but if your main bottleneck, your main issue is just getting to the gym, then just check that off the box. Just one step, one task at a time, one day at a time. After a couple of weeks, you'll notice that, going to the gym isn't really that much of friction, because you're just used to doing it, right? And now you're going to the gym all the time. Now that you've checked that off the box, now you're in the gym. Okay, let's start to take a look at what exercises you're doing. Are you training hard, right? And it's a slow progression where, because you took that first step of just going to the gym, even though it maybe didn't feel great at first, you got yourself in that cycle, in that habit, and because of that leads into, you putting more consideration and thought into the foods you're eating, the exercises you're doing in the gym. And now pretty soon, because you've disciplined yourself in your health, which is, again, like I like to term it, the operator of the machine, in the sense where if you're driving a vehicle, it doesn't matter if you have air in the tires and a car wash and all these things. If the engine's not running properly, then it's not going to be efficient, right? And it's not going to probably run the best. So if you can start from the inside and prioritize your own health, then it's also going to carry into these other avenues of your life, your relationships, your career, your finances. All these things are going to improve. And most importantly, your self-confidence, because your self-confidence, as that improves, also does the possibility that you can achieve more things and greater things than you thought imaginable. Because if we can improve our self-confidence by doing things we don't feel like doing in the moment that are going to pay off in the future, then what happens in the future? Well, we are that person. We are that person that has those things we want, because they all pay off, right? And in addition, in that middle process is where we build up the tenacity, the discipline, and the character traits of the person that is actually capable of achieving these things. And then now that we're the person capable of achieving these things and we've taken these action steps, it's just a matter of time before you achieve the results you want. Now, if you guys are somebody that has stayed all the way to the end of this video and you feel like you don't want to waste more time, then I want you to take the opportunity to click the link below and schedule in a free strategy call. During this call, we'll just go through, what the main bottleneck is with your physique and your fitness. What's the main thing holding you back from achieving the results you want? Is it, having somebody there telling you what to do? Or is it just a matter of, you taking a different approach that could work for you? Whatever the goal is, that's something that I want to help get clear with you on in this call. So if you are somebody that is serious, then click the Calendly link below and you can schedule a call. But only if you want to, and only if you're serious about taking that next step. If you're not somebody that wants to take that next step, but you do like the value of these videos, and leave me a comment with the word value or something similar. Let me know in the comments. I appreciate you guys staying until the end. And for those of you guys that want to check out my training, nutrition, and just the steps that I give to my clients and my followers on Instagram so that they can achieve their ideal physique, then you can check out my Instagram page. It's also linked in my bio, and my Instagram is JStroudFit, just like this. But yeah, nonetheless, thanks for staying to the end, you guys, and stay tuned for more videos like this. Just know, before we wrap up, that the one thing you need to do to set yourself up for success is set that first domino, stack the rest, and then as that first domino starts to pick up speed and momentum, boom, all those positive things that you want in your life start coming to you. Because you took that first action step. So it all starts with here, bro. So make the choice.